So good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with Gail Walker today. Gail is from DogFit, and we are going to be talking all things Canicross. So Gail, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yes, yeah. Hi, everyone. Yes, I run DogFit along with my business partner, Janetta George, and we've been running that for must be over 5 years now. And we, if you don't already know much about us, we sell the Canicross equipment, including our own DogFit starter set, which you'll find on our website. And we also run classes, and that's for anybody looking to get into Canicross, but you could already be a runner, but this is a new sport you want to get into, or you're a complete novice across both counts. We've got a fantastic network of DogFit trainers across the country who run classes and support you all the way. So they can advise you on kit, for example, and run a course such as a Couch to 5K and upwards. So we cover the training side and the kit side of the business.
Fabulous. So just for people that don't know, kind of where did Canicross come from?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It really originated from more of the winter sport. So a lot of the dog mushing communities, and they would use it as a way to train in the summer months when there's no snow. So it sort of evolved from that, really. So you get lots of different types of similar sort of canine people sports. So ski joring is another one that people will probably have heard of. So that's where the dog's pulling on the skis. But yes, it's all born out of that, really. So it worked out as a really good training tool. I've been on a couple of dog mushing holidays. I've been very fortunate to have done that, and it's absolutely amazing to do it. But I remember actually meeting one of the owners, and they said that's what they do in the summer months. They will use the harnesses and the equipment to still train the dogs, even when it's dry land, so they can still work on the commands, for example. So yeah, and then it became really big in Europe. It's just really evolved, and it's over the last few years, I would say it's really grown since we've pretty much established DogFit. When I first got into Canicross, which was many years ago, I think it was deemed as quite a niche sport. Now more people are aware of it, and I think that's because obviously there's the likes of ourselves, and we've got a trainer network helping to spread the word. And because it's such a fantastic sport, I think just word of mouth just passes on from one person to the next. And so the origins are broadly around the dog mushing communities, and it's just sort of become really popular in its own right now as a sport, which is great for us. So
dog mushing holidays, I need to look at that. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, so
I can persuade my husband, but
yeah, it's not cheap. You have to save up a bit, but we had I went with my husband on our honeymoon, actually, and we had a guide. We went in the Yukon, and we had 7 dogs each, and so to ourselves, so we didn't have to share. And we had a guide on a skidoo, just took us out in the middle of nowhere, basically. It's just to spend that quality time with the dogs, and you look after them as well as run them. So it was a bit of a dream holiday.
Sounds amazing. I'd really love that. I think that would be really good. So what made you set up DogFit? Was it because you wanted to kind of spread the word and it wasn't that well known, or?
Yeah, a bit of that. So I was, when I met Janetta, my business partner, I was already running a local group, a social group in my area, and it wasn't that big at the time. Now it's grown massively over the years, but I myself found it really hard to get into Canicross. I'd seen somebody running their huskies in an off-road race, and I didn't have dogs at the time, and I remember thinking, wow, that looks fantastic. So when we had our first got dogs, we thought, well, we really want to find out more about it, and I couldn't find anything online. It was very difficult to, anyway, and there weren't many people actively doing it. I think there were lots of niche groups, and I found a little bit of information online, so I started writing my own blog as I started to get into Canicross, because I just found some friends to run with, and just really got my local group going, and it sort of grew that way. So then Janetta joined this local group that I was running, and she got into the sport that way. And she always admits she's not a runner at all, as I was already doing road running. I was doing marathons, I was getting into off-road running, but she always said she hated running. And then her husband bought her some Canicross equipment. Wasn't necessarily the best kit at the time, but I mean, it was great for her, because she was like, okay, I really want to do something with Coco, her GSP. And while she wasn't really into running on her own, she got in touch with me through my local group, and we went out for it, and she got into it that way, and discovered. So her love of Canicross has come from just running with her dog. And yeah, so between us, I was already writing blogs. Janetta just absolutely loved the sport and realised this is a great way to enjoy running, and a different way to do it, because you're going off road as well, which is always better for the joints. It's a lot nicer, isn't it, than road running? And we just talked about the fact that I was very aware that there were lots of people joining the group that I was running, but there were lots of beginners, and we weren't set up to manage that many people, because it's just a local community, it's just social running. And we just saw it as an opportunity to really raise awareness and bring the sport to more people, because it really is a sport for anybody, really, within reason, and any dog within reason. But because we absolutely loved it, we just wanted to spread the word. And like I said, I was already writing some blogs, I was getting really good engagement that way. I also had some, and as well as Janetta, we had a lot of thoughts about the kit and how we wanted to make it more affordable for people. So we actually started manufacturing our own kit. We spent probably a couple of years in research and development to get it right. And we wanted to have, that's how our starter kit came about. So we have a starter kit for £89, and we really wanted to make it, like I said, affordable. I mean, it's actually cheaper than a pair of off-road trainers these days, but we recognise that there's lots of great features about the kit, but we just wanted to make, like I said, bring it down in price, manufacture it in this country, and also just have elements of it that work well for us. So that's why we have the waist belt and the harness as well. I'm sure we'll talk about the kit in a moment, but yeah, it sort of just evolved that way, really, just wanting to sort of get more people to do it. And because we are obviously just based in one area, we thought, how do we spread the word even more? And that was where we decided to train our DogFit coaches. And so DogFit trainers are an extension of DogFit itself, because everyone is certified. They'll always all have some sort of background in leading a class. Some are personal trainers, some are also have experience with dogs, so they're dog trainers. And it means that when somebody comes to a class, they're getting that structure and support. And yeah, we find that it's been a huge success since we started it running, and it's just really lovely, because we get loads of good stories coming back from the community that's out there, how much they love the sport, which is music to our ears, because that's all we ever wanted. We just want more people to get into the sport and appreciate just how wonderful it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I got into it, in that I used to do a lot of road running myself.
Yes.
But I'm kind of at that age where I start to pick up a few injuries now. And I wanted to still run, but I wanted to do something with my dogs as well. And it was kind of like, there are only so many hours in the day, so how can I combine the two? And, you know, I came across you, you know, sort of through Googling and looking into it. And obviously then I started off going to cats. I'm running with Cat.
Yeah.
And absolutely loved it, and the dogs loved it, and really, really enjoyed it. But obviously that was quite a journey for me to travel to Cat, which is obviously then why I trained with you guys to actually deliver the courses close to where I live. And it is really, really popular for runners and non-runners. I mean, do you find that you get a real mix of people that are interested in finding out more?
Yeah, generally, most are fairly new to running. They might be beginners, or they've struggled in the past. So I know quite a lot of people who've struggled to do a Couch to 5K on their own on the roads, but you do it in a DogFit class with a DogFit trainer. It's a completely different experience, as you'll know yourself, Bridget. But people are joining a group of other like-minded people. It's much more sociable. the pressure's off almost, and you're running with your dog, so you get that bond with your dog, and it's much more fun because it takes that pressure off. And yeah, it's still going to be quite tough because you're basically learning to run and you're building up like you would if you were running on your own. But I think from a mental point of view and just that whole motivational point of view, running with your dog is a very different experience. And it takes that edge off a bit, makes it a bit more fun, and you can see how much fun your dog's having as well. So I think that just has a knock-on effect to you as well. But yeah, we tend to get mostly people who are beginners. We do actually have one lady, Georgie Gay, who joined us, and she was already a runner. She was an ex, I think she did track running, and she went to one of our DogFit trainer classes to learn about Canicross. She was already a very accomplished runner, but she got into Canicross from going to one of our classes, and she now takes part in the European and World Championships for representing GB. So you will get people like that, but that's obviously one extreme, but the majority are complete beginners. And it's just nice not to have that, to have to feel self-conscious when you're out running and know that you're with a bunch of other people, and it's about having fun and just being with your dog and getting fit with your dog. And I think that's why it's proved really popular and why people stick to it.
And I found that definitely with people that come and run with me. A lot of those are people that, like you say, have never run before, but absolutely love it, and you know, really do get into it. But I've also got people that come that have been runners, and they've actually said to me that they would now not ever run without their dog. They love it so much that they wouldn't go for a run without their dog now. They'd just, you know, why would you? They've realised it's so much more fun, which is lovely, really.
It is nice. Yeah, we've got so many stories. We've got, you'll know already, but we have a blog called My Story, and there's some really lovely stories about our clients and why they have got into Canicross, because it's not just about getting fit. For a lot of people, it's helped them with their mental health and well-being. It's given them a new focus in life, because it's for some people it's very difficult to get up and go out and go for a run, but knowing you're exercising your dog as well and you're going out into the countryside, it's just a completely different experience. But yeah, we have some really moving stories on our blog, and I think if anyone can see that lots of different reasons why people get into it. Rescue dogs is another really good example of where Canicross helps people, because I actually volunteer at a local rescue centre. I've been doing that for a number of years, and I wanted to take them out for a Canicross run, the sort of the younger, more active ones, and we've had great feedback from the centres that it's helped with their rehoming, because they can't be let off the lead, for example, and they only get out once a day if they're lucky, and it's a great way for them to burn off some energy, and also again to use commands and build a bond with them. So it's a good training tool as well. But yeah, so lots of reasons why people get into Canicross, and that's what I love about it, because it's, like I say, it's not just about going out and going for a run. There's lots of reasons behind it, why people are enjoying it so much and why it's so good for them.
Yeah, and one of the things that I found, certainly with my clients here, is I get a lot of people that are really interested in it, but just say, oh, I can't run, I've never run, I won't be able to do it. So I actually find that a lot of people come into it through the canny trekking route. And I just say, well, okay, come on, we'll go out, we'll power walk and we'll canny trek if you don't want to run. That class that I do is always really, really popular, but it's fascinating because I find that after we've been doing it a few weeks, people then start to ask, so what's the difference then between what we're doing now and when you run with them? And then they say, well, can we have a little go? We'll just maybe just do a little bit of a run. And then each week we kind of just do a little bit more. And then before I know it, they've kind of said, oh, when does your next couch to 5K start? And so I'm finding that people who thought they would never, ever run or couldn't run, once they start the canny trekking, they really want to have a go.
Yeah, Canicross is a great way to build up confidence, because for a lot of people, if they're new to running and it's Canicross is new to them as well, you've got two dimensions there. You're trying to get used to running, but also having a dog pulling you and getting used to the equipment. So we always say, even when you're first new to it, you should just power walk with your dog anywhere and get used to the equipment and get used to letting go of the line, because it's your natural inclinations to hang on for dear life. But it's not like that at all, because the kit, once people realise when they get the kit, the waist belt sits low, so you don't get a pull on your back. And there's a line that attaches, and it's a bungee line, so it absorbs any shock from the pull of the dog, and you can manage the power of the dog, and you can control the dog that using your hips, and you can grab the line if you have to, obviously. But I think for a lot of people, because that's new and you're getting used to it, Canicross is perfect. But like I say, Canicross is really good anyway. If you just go out, power walk, and like you said, Bridget, when they're ready to start running, you can just build in a minute jogging, a minute off, and just get used to it that way.
Yeah, and that's definitely how I've kind of introduced people to it. And like I say, I do find that they then go on to do the couch to 5k. And sometimes I've had people that do a couch to 5k. They know they can run the 5k, but they've enjoyed it so much that they almost do another couch to 5k. Because the second time round, they kind of feel like, I'm going to enjoy the whole process now. It's not going to be too hard.
Yes.
So, you know, it does, people do tend to sort of progress through the different levels. Or I certainly find that with the clients that I work with. So should we talk a little bit about the equipment? Because I think it's really, really important that people understand why they should use the correct equipment.
Yes.
So it might be worth just having a bit of a chat about the equipment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, we sell the actual Canicross equipment. So it's very important you use Canicross specific kit, because it's designed especially for the sport. And the dog harness, for example, is particularly important, because you want to have the way the harness is manufactured, and the way it should fit your dog is that it should be lightweight. It shouldn't be restricting any movement. So I've seen people running with harnesses on their dogs, and they think, oh, I'm doing the right thing because I'm not attaching my lead to the collar, so not being yanked on the neck. But some of these harnesses that aren't Canicross specific ones, they are often designed to stop a dog from pulling, for example, or they will obstruct the dog's movement. So when they're running, you want to make sure their shoulders are completely free to move. Also, the side of the harness isn't digging in on the ribs. So that's why the Canicross equipment is designed specially to prevent all those things happening. But it's also important to get the right fit, because you don't want to have a harness, obviously, that's too tight around the neck or too long in the body, so it's going past the last rib, for example, and digging in. So that's quite important. And we actually have a harness consultation form that people can complete online, and we find out as much as we can about their dog, and we will recommend the harness for them. And then on our website, we've got videos as well on how to measure and fit for a harness, and also what all the measurements should be. So a lot of people will just order online based on those measurements. But if someone's really unsure, we can help them through the consultation form, and then we get back in touch with our recommendations or ask them further questions. But the harness is quite important to get right. And obviously it's harder for the dog because they can't tell you how they're feeling, how it fits. But whereas with the waist belt that the human wears, there's a lot more choice there. And it really depends on what you are looking for. So ultimately, though, you have to run in a specific Canicross waist belt, because it's designed to sit low on the hips. So when the dog does pull, it's pulling through the hips and not jarring your back. So that's why I'm saying any old waist belt won't do. Now, the way the waist belts are, you get very sort of lightweight, quite sporty looking ones. So that a lot of people might use them for racing, or if they just don't like too much around their waist, versus ones that are a lot more supportive, and they might be a bit wider, have pockets in them. You get all different types. The DogFit waist belt that I run in is lightweight. It's got a zip in the back. It's got pockets. For me, it's perfect. I mean, obviously, Janetta and I designed it because it's based on all the things we like about a waist belt. I particularly like it because I hardly notice I'm wearing it when I'm running it, and that's a sign of a good waist belt. And with the pocket, it's enough for me to put my keys in, and like poo bags, for example. You could put a mobile phone in there, but it depends if you want that weight on the back. But I particularly like that because it's lightweight. But a good Canicross belt will also have leg straps, but you don't have to have them mega tight. But just so that it holds the waist belt into place, so it doesn't slip around when the dog's moving left and right. And then the third essential item is the bungee line. So you get a standard line, which is 2 meters, or you can get a short line, which will be 1.2 meters, which a lot of park runs, that's their preference for length of line. And for some people, they prefer the shorter line, because if you're not particularly tall and you've got a small dog, a short line can actually be better. Or if you've got a dog that doesn't pull too hard and you want to have, so you don't have the line flopping around so much. But it really depends what you want. I personally prefer the longer line because I have a very strong pulling staffy that I run with, and he's really good on his commands, and so I can just call out left and right and he'll be pulling. I don't need him so close to me. If I was running in a particularly technical area, I might prefer to have the shorter line, so he's a bit nearer to me if I'm doing a lot of weaving around trees, for example. But it's often down to preference. But yes, the important thing is to get the harness right for the dog. And like I said, we have got a consultation form that people complete online, so I don't want people to worry about whether it's right or wrong. And then it's down to other preferences, like what colour you want, or if you want something that's more supportive for a more powerful dog. So we've got different harnesses for that as well. And dogs that are deep chested, we've got a certain type of harness that we'd recommend.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for most people, unless you decide that you're going to take this sport really seriously, for most people, the starter kits are, as you know, are perfect for what you need. And to be honest, they last, don't they? You know, they will probably last you a lifetime if you look after it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because the starter kit is brilliant, because like I said, it's £89, but you have the 3 pieces of equipment that I've mentioned: the harness, the belt, and the line. But we also give away a free Canicross guide or booklet and a kit bag. So what's lovely about that is you can just put everything into the kit bag. It's there, ready to go. And when you finish up from a run, especially if it's a bit muddy, you can just chuck it in the bag. Yeah. And you said about the quality of the kit. Yeah, I mean, it's super durable. I've had mine for years and it's still going strong. And I don't really do too much to look after it, in the sense that it doesn't need, I let if my dog's if it's got quite muddy, I let it dry off and then I just brush it off. And when it gets to the stage where I think, it might need a wash, I would just put it in a low, gentle wash in the washing machine. I might just I do all the fastenings up. Some people put it in a pillowcase as well, and that does it fine. It's good to go again. But yeah, it's really good. The quality of the kit, of all the range that we sell, is really high. So
yeah, I chuck mine in the washing machine, I have to admit. Do the box up, in it goes. You know, and I mean, I've had mine for a little while now. But you know, it's still as good as new. So you know,
and the dogs can swim in it, can't they? That's what's good. They can still go and I went out for a run this morning with my dogs, and he had a swim in the lake at the end, and it's great because it's really good. It doesn't fill up with water, it doesn't weigh the dog down. It'll dry really quickly as well because it's lightweight. Yeah. So it's really good for that as well. You don't need to worry about getting wet or anything like that.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, probably important to tell people, you know, if they are running with, or they want to go out with more than one dog, I mean, I take both my dogs out together, so I tend to use the shorter bungee, but then I've got the splitter lead.
Right, that's right, yes.
Yeah, so you've got your shorter bungee, but then you've got a lead that kind of splits, doesn't it?
Right, yes. So we designed our own splitter, especially for that reason. So there's lots of different options for running with 2 dogs. If somebody's a complete beginner, we always say it's best to start with 1 dog, unless they're 2 very small dogs, just because you're getting used to the sport and you're getting used to the equipment. But yes, with 2 dogs, there's lots of options. If you've got 2 dogs that run a similar pace and strength and they're similar size, the splitter's perfect, because it forks near, you attach it to the end of your normal line, and sometimes that's why it's better to have a shorter line that I mentioned before and add the splitter to that, because that adds another meter at the end, and then the dogs will be running fairly close to each other. If you have a dog that doesn't really pull, might because not all dogs pull super hard, or they need to be trained to do it and get used to it. But some dogs aren't, you know, just necessarily going to pull as hard as another dog. And you can have what the dog that pulls on the longer line or on a line, and a separate line attached to the end of your belt for the dog that doesn't pull so much. They can run more to your side or slightly off kilter with the other dog, rather than have them closer to each other and attached to the end of your line. Just have two separate lines, and then you can actually get double lines where it just splits off halfway down the line. Right. So it depends often on how your dog runs, but I really like the splitter, and it's a very handy thing just to keep in your backpack if you know, as extra accessory anyway. But yeah, it depends on many things. But yeah, I've got two staffies that run really well together on the splitter.
Yeah, and my dogs are very, very similar size, so it works. It works really well for them. So I find that really good. But going back to your point about if people are starting out with them running with one dog, what I have done with a couple of my clients actually is, if they've got two dogs and they don't want to leave one at home, is I will run with one of their dogs while they run with the other. Yeah. And then, you know, perhaps the next week we'll swap over so that they get to run with both of their dogs, but not at the same time, until they get more comfortable with it, and they get, you know, sort of, they want to then try running with the two. Quite often, especially if they're quite big dogs, I've got a lady that comes that has two very big Malinois cross collies, and they're strong and they're fast. So I run with one and she runs with the other. So, you know, there is always that option, isn't there, I guess, depending on sort of the trainer that somebody goes to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fun. Yeah, so it's really good. So I mean, I quite often get people asking me about what breeds of dogs do Canicross. So I mean, is that a question that you get quite commonly asked?
Yeah, I think it's a quite common general question, because I think some people think that you have to have some super fit athletic dog to do Canicross. And whilst people who compete at the top end there are certain dogs that are very popular, we want to introduce it to the mass, you know, community. We want as many people and their dogs to enjoy Canicross. So what I normally say is, as long as you are able to run and your dog is able to run, there's no reason why any person or any dog can't do it. And we normally say, if you're not sure, consult your GP for you or your vet for your dog, so if you have any concerns. But typically, because we talked about Canicross just now, where you hands-free walk with your dog, versus Canicross, where you're running with your dog, you can go from one extreme to the other, and you can alter the distances. So I know, so for example, I've got, as I mentioned, two staffies who are they've got lots of endurance. My younger one, who I do most of my running with now, Winston, I've done marathon distances with him, and he will pull all the way. He's just super strong, and he's got lots of endurance, so he's really keen. Whereas I know some people who have got smaller dogs, they might have like Dachshunds or Westies or even Boston Terriers, and a lot of them actually still do long distances, but there might be some that they just do, they have to avoid certain temperatures. If a dog is a bit older, or there's certain breed types, it's about adjusting for the dog. So the Couch to 5K, it's less of an issue. It's only really if you're going to start getting more into it more seriously. So, and you get to know, I mean, I've got my younger dog will do a longer distance than I've got a Ridgeback Dobie Cross as well, and we know her limit now, because she's nearly 10 years old, but she's still going out doing 8, 9, 10 mile runs. But you know, her marathon days are over, only because we're easing up on her, and we just know what she enjoys. So I think it's about being sensible. And it's the same with people, dogs and people. If you're new to running and going out and doing those sort of distances, you build up gradually. That's the key thing. So that's why Couch to 5K is perfect, because you're going to start with a lot more walking than running, and you just build up gradually. And if you do that with your dog, you're both building up in the proper way. But yeah, generally speaking, any dog, any person, within, as long as you know you're fit and healthy enough to do it, then no reason why not, because it's about going out and having fun, and then you can manage it through canny trekking anyway, if it came to it.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, you know, very much, I always say to people that come along on my classes, you know, we're a social group.
Yeah,
We go out and run with our dogs, you know. We're never going to be elite athletes, but that's not why we do it. But there are, you know, to be fair, people that might be watching that think, actually, I do want to do this and I want to take it seriously. There are clubs and that out there, aren't there, that people can join and take the sport very seriously. There are competitions that go on around the country.
Yeah, we've there's lots of different types of events. You've got Canicross specific ones, which are a little bit more serious, or they might often they're 5K, and you might set off individually. I tend to prefer the ones that you have dogless runners as well as that welcome Canicrosses. So I prefer the longer distances. So I do a lot of there's some coastal runs that I do, events where you can do anything from 10K up to marathon. But we list a lot of the Canicross friendly events on our website, so people can go on there and have a look. And don't forget park run as well. I mean, what's lovely is a lot of our trainers will run a couch to 5K course, and when they get to the end, the last week, they'll get all their clients to go and do a park run together. I think that's quite a nice thing to do. Yeah. And a lot of people do that on a regular basis, and it becomes you know, it's fun. You see your friends, the dogs love it. But yeah, if you want to get into more the competition side, even if you're not worried about your time, you just want to just do it for the, you know, because it's a new adventure. There are lots of events out there, but they don't have to be Canicross specific, but they will tell you if they're Canicross friendly. And like I said, our website mentions a lot of those as well.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, isn't it? Because I found with Alfie, with one of my dogs, that he wasn't a natural, you'd think he would be being a staffy, but he wasn't a natural puller. He kind of wanted to run by my side all the time, and I was struggling to get him to kind of realise what he needed to do. And so I actually went to a competition that wasn't very far from home. It was a very, very cold January weekend, I remember. But I actually went to a competition with him just to see whether the atmosphere and that would G him up, because they had a 5K route. And I tell you what, he pulled like a little train the whole way around. He absolutely loved it. He was so excited, and he really pulled the whole way around. But it was almost like that excitement, suddenly he twigged what he was supposed to be doing. And after that, he actually pulled so much better, because it kind of, you know, almost like he was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do.
They just seem to know when it's and it's like if you're in a big social group, all you need is a couple of dogs start barking and they all go mental, and it's like and they're you don't need to say anything to get them to start, they'll just go. But I think that is often a good way to train the dog, to get them to learn to pull, is to see other dogs doing it, or switching, like you mentioned about one of your clients, but you could almost switch with their dog with yours, and you run in front. You run behind with their dog and they run in front with yours that pulls, and they'll want to keep up. But it is just once they understand how to use that kit and what you're asking them to do, they pretty much pick it up, you know, very quickly. But yeah, that is funny. Events are always they're always entertaining, to say the least.
Well, I tell you what, my legs were going so fast.
Yeah, I bet.
Just like, who is this dog? This isn't my dog. It was brilliant though. It was really, really good. And he obviously absolutely loved it. He loved the whole atmosphere, which was good. But, you know, I wasn't worried about our time. I wasn't there really to compete. I was there for the experience. But it was great fun. But I mean, that is one of the things that people quite often ask is, well, what if my dog doesn't pull? How can, you know? And you're right, I've done that with clients before as well. I've run with their dog behind them so that they're chasing their owner. But they do get it eventually.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways, and there'll always be some dogs that don't want to pull, and you but I think I always think it doesn't matter ultimately, you know, because the main thing is you're going out and you're getting fit with your dog. As long as they're happy, because the last thing we want to do is try and force a dog to do anything they don't want to do. But it's often they just need a bit of encouragement or understanding what you're asking them to do, because especially if you've spent years teaching them to walk by your side on a lead.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say use the Canicross equipment for when you want them to pull, so they understand when you're using it, and use commands. So yeah, there's lots of different techniques to get your dog to pull, like you say, swapping round, or you get a family member or relative to cycle or run in front. Running with other people obviously helps. Doing events, as you mentioned, and yes, using commands. So when they are doing what you want them to do, you praise them. But yeah.
I must admit, it made me smile, because I have to be really, really careful when I'm running with Alfie not to tell him he's being a good boy, because as soon as I say good boy, he stops and wants a treat. Because he thinks that good boy means I get a treat. So I have to be really, really careful, because otherwise he just stops dead. Just like, no, I didn't want you to do that. So I've had to kind of think of different things to say so that I don't tell him he's being a good boy, because otherwise that backfires and everything stops. So not so good. Now, one of the things that I have found with some of the classes that I run, and it'd be interesting to see if you feel the same. Sometimes I have people that contact me that say they really want to have a go, but their dog is reactive or doesn't like other dogs very much. Yeah. But what I have found is that when those people come along, we manage the integration really, really carefully. So usually those people will start off at the back of the group, and they will manage the distance of how close they get to the rest of the pack. And gradually they can kind of reduce that gap, depending on how comfortable the dog is. But I usually find that after about 2 or 3 weeks of coming to the groups, because it tends to be the same dogs that are there on the same sessions, that those reactive dogs are then really quite happy being in that pack of dogs. So it's quite interesting how they cope with that.
I think so. And I'm always, it's lovely to see, because there's so many stories of people who do Canicross with reactive dogs, and a lot of people are put off. They think they're not going to be welcomed to our classes if they've got a reactive dog, and actually it's completely the opposite. We encourage people with reactive dogs to come along, because it's a safe, secure environment where they can do it, and that's why we have guidelines in place, and we have our trainers are all certified, and they've all attended a workshop, and they're all knowledgeable in the sport. And when somebody joins a DogFit class, everybody who goes, they're all clear on what the guidelines are, and it's about respecting each other's space, as you said. People know not to just turn up in the car park and just let the dogs out of the car willy-nilly. Everyone knows they've got to have their dog attached at all times and respect each other's space. And it's only once they get to know the dogs, or they know it's okay, to let them approach each other. But yes, with a reactive dog, this is a brilliant way to help socialise them. Now, for whatever reason, whether it's reactive dogs or dogs who just can't let off the lead because they go running off, it's really good. Yeah, it's really good for the dog, because they get to be alongside other dogs in a controlled way. The owner is, because they're attached to the dog, they're building that special bond. And especially if your dog's a new dog and reactive, a rescue, for example, might be, it's a great way to build that bond. And what I find fascinating, and this happens time and time again, the dogs tend to just run. If they do end up alongside another dog, they'll just run alongside, and they're focused on what's ahead. It's when you stop, at the start, when the dogs, especially when they're very excited and they can get distracted, or at the end when they're getting a little bit, again, distracted. And that's where you've just got to make sure people follow the guidelines. They turn up, they don't go, they have their dog attached, they don't go straight over to another dog. At the end, they when they're walking back to the car, they make sure they keep their distance. You want to end on a positive note. The dog's had a really good run and not reacted. Don't give them the opportunity or undo what you've just done. But yeah, we've had great stories. I think we've got some nice stories about that. But we have one lady, for example, we've got a story about her running with her dog in a muzzle. Some people might use a muzzle at the start of the run and take it off during the run to spot, especially in events or races when the dog's excited. But if you have the right type of muzzle, that dog can still breathe and still drink, and it's super comfortable for them. But that is another thing you can do. But your point about running at the back, that's definitely better as well, because then the dog isn't worried about dogs running up behind them. And as you'll know yourself, it's from your clients, it's often about the owner feeling confident as well, not having to worry. So again, if they're at the back, they don't have to worry about somebody else coming alongside with their dog and not thinking about their dog. So that is a good thing, is reason why you should run at the back as well. But yeah, we get lots of people react to dogs, and it's lovely. We hear some really heartwarming stories about how it's really helped them.
Yeah, I've seen a huge improvement in several dogs that come you know, with us, that they just literally, it only takes a couple of sessions and they just seem to be really comfortable. They seem to recognize the other dogs that are there, and they seem much more comfortable. And it's lovely to see them be able to relax and be social. One of the things that I think sometimes clients are quite surprised at is how tired their dogs are after a Canicross session, because they'll say, oh, you know, I usually take him across the fields for 2 hours and he's not as tired as he is when we've done a 5k. But it is very mentally for them, isn't it?
Oh, totally. I totally agree with that, because they're listening out for their owner to give them a command, and they're concentrating on that as well as negotiated terrain, and they're pulling as well. So it's very different. It's very stimulating for them. And yeah, I find my dogs, they'll do run, they just sleep all day after that. That's it.
So yeah, I mean, I think people are quite surprised at that sometimes. And what about maybe people that are have, I guess, are less able, in terms of, is Canicross something that you could do with people or children with autism maybe?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because we do actually have a trainer in London, Jenya. She concentrates on doing Canicross for autistic children.
Oh, right.
So she approached us a few years ago about it, because she was already I don't know too enough about the science, you know, about how it all works, but it's generally helped the children. So when she's just running as well, just giving them something to focus on. And she got in touch with us because she obviously the whole building a bond with the dog as well is fantastic for the child, and having something to be responsible for and to do together has proven a really great outlet for them. So she does Canicross for children with autism, and she said it's been, like I say, a great outlet for them. I think in general, Canicross is just good therapy, isn't it? It's just because you're with the dog, you're bonding, you're getting fit, so it's good for lots of reasons. And I think whether you have, you know, like I said before, we have clients that have you know, suffered from some mental health issues and found that Canicross has been great therapy for them, and it's given them something to focus on, and it being really positive part of their life. So yeah, so there's so many great things about it, actually. Like I said, it's not just running with your dog, is it? It's
it's great, and you get to meet, you know, especially for people who maybe don't have a very large social circle or are very shy. It's great for them to come, because they meet people that they've got something in common with them straight away.
Right. Yes.
The love of their dogs, and you know, you find that people start to kind of come out their shell quite quickly, actually, which is really lovely. So, I mean, one of the questions that I will get asked, I guess now, going into this time of year, is, isn't it too hot to run with your dog? So I mean, I know I kind of, if I'm going to do runs when it is warm, we'll try and do some very early morning ones, because it's not always cooler in the evenings. But what kind of things do other trainers do in summer?
Yeah, I mean, typically, the thing with the weather as well, you've also got to bear in mind, it's not one rule fits all, because some dogs will struggle more than others in the heat. So it's about knowing your dog. But humidity is the big thing to be mindful of, because obviously dogs don't sweat. So the humidity is a huge factor, as well as the temperature. But generally speaking, I mean, maybe we're quite lucky in this country. You don't get many weeks where it's really scorching hot. And it'd be in that period where you wouldn't go out at all. You probably would avoid doing any running. But when it's typically warm and through the summer months, what our trainers will do, and what I will do myself, is you mentioned it yourself. You go out early while it's cooler. You go out late. The other thing to do is to think about where you run. So find places that are shaded, and or have places where you can stop for water. And I always carry water as well, for me and for the dogs. But I think about where there might be water stops. And then you might do shorter distances. You would stop for longer. So I would even sometimes you can get temperatures like I've had today, where it's like 16 degrees, and it's been quite warm actually, because there's been no cloud cover. I would just make sure I go somewhere where there's a chance for the dogs to just have a dip in the water, and let them cool down. Don't let them, in their own time. There's no race. It's just about making sure they're comfortable. So there's lots of different things that you can do. It's about being sensible, really. But on those odd days where it's hot, even early in the morning, I just wouldn't run the dog. And some breeds, especially with the thicker fur, you're going to have less options during the summer. But generally speaking, though, you can run. People will be running our classes because we just adjust when you go out in the day. But obviously avoid the midday sun, as they say.
I mean, I always encourage people to bring water anyway, for themselves, but also for their dogs. But I tend to run, I think a lot of trainers do, I run with a camel pack.
Yeah, same here.
So that I've always got water and the dogs love that when it comes out of the tube.
Right, yes. Yes,
that's good. Equally, I had some fun actually in the winter doing some in the dark, doing some torchlight.
Great fun.
Which to start with, I was like, oh, this is going to be a bit mad, but actually it was really good fun. It adds a whole new dimension. Kind of like, but I think a couple of times we were out and we frightened the life out of local people, because all they could see were these dogs with they couldn't even see the dogs, they could just see like these flashing collars and and then people running with head torches, and it was just like these Christmas trees running towards them. It was just
it's great. I run all through the year, and the night running is, as you said, it is totally different, and it's great fun, because I find that my dogs pull better when it's dark, because I suppose their other senses are heightened, and they're thinking what's out there. But it's really good fun, and normally we only bump into maybe mountain bikers. That's the only thing. So it probably is a bit odd seeing a pack of dogs coming towards you just with our head torches behind them. But that's what I love about Canicross. It is an all year round sport, and actually that's the best time to be running, sort of like the autumn, winter, because the temperatures are cooler. And there's no reason why, just because it's dark, you can't still go out. I think when you're a complete beginner, don't go doing night running straight away. Get your confidence up, because like I said, it's a whole new dimension for you as well. And pick wide paths, easy paths without too many tree roots or anything you're not used to when you first start doing it, because you don't want to be having to worry about that as well. But night running is great fun.
It is. I just make sure I stick to routes I know very well. I never try a new route in the dark, because that's a bit crazy. And I guess one of the other things that people worry about a little bit when they're starting out is that maybe if their dog is a puller, that they might get pulled over, or their dog might be too strong. So I mean, obviously I spend quite a lot of time explaining to people how they use the kit to try and sort of control their dogs, etc. But what other advice could you give people about that?
I think for what I would do personally, if I thought I had a dog that's really strong puller, and especially when you're first doing Canicross with them, is I would walk, hands-free walk with them first. I'd do the Cani trekking and make sure that you start incorporating commands. So if you were, command when you want to start running, but you might have a command. So for example, if they're a really strong puller and you're going downhill, a good command to teach them is one that has them running next to you. So I've taught Winston, my dog, I say the word back, and he will trot by my side or run slightly behind me. And we have got a video where we teach people how to do that. It's not the easiest command, but it's about consistency and sticking to it. But yes, ultimately, if you have a strong pulling dog, you can work on commands, and there'll be certain times when they are going to pull harder than others. But you mentioned just now, using the kit is very important, because I mentioned before that the waist belt that the human wears sits low on the hips, so it's not actually directly around the waist, it's sitting on the hips. So because it's a bungee line, that absorbs the shock. So when the dog is pulling quite strong, might have a word, for example, like easy or something, but also you use your hips, to sort of manage that pull, that momentum. And it is, I'd be upfront, it's not easy. If you have a really strong dog, it does take getting used to and working with them. And for them, they need to get used to listening to you for your commands. And sometimes it's the excitement, and at the beginning of a run, dogs might pull harder, and that's why you might want to ease into it and walk with them, not just go hell for leather straight away. But yeah, it's down, I think communication is a big part of it. And sometimes there will be just people that just have strong dogs that are possibly too strong for them. They're quite small frame and light, and you've got a big dog. But if you've got somebody, you might have more than one dog, and it might be you get your husband to run with the bigger dog, for example, or you get somebody else to help you. And maybe not. Another tip would be, if you're running with other people and you've got a really strong puller, maybe I would do is run in front, lead in front of the pack. Don't be the one at the back, because that dog's going to want to pull even harder. So yeah, it's good to sort of maybe stay in the front of the pack as well, because that dog's less inclined to pull as hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's interesting when you talk about commands as well, about teaching your dog left and right, because obviously that's quite important. If they're at the end of a 2 meter line and they need to turn before you, they need to know left and right, don't they? I whenever I'm walking my dogs, just on their normal leads, when we turn, I'll say left and right. I just do it out of habit now, just so that I'm constantly teaching them left and right, so that when we are out canicrossing.
It's my favourite command, because it's the easiest one to teach, and it's the most effective, and it's the one you'll use the most. I always remember I did a race many years ago with my other staffy, Sydney, and I taught him left and right, and I was so grateful afterwards, because we hit a really technical part of the run where we were weaving through trees, and other canicrossers, I remember at the time, were like, some of them were like having to pull on the line to drag them down the tree, whereas I just remember he was perfect, because I would just say left, right, and he just did it. And I didn't, and I just thought, this is all because I've trained him, and it makes such a difference. It's a really nice feeling, because it's you're not having to stop in your tracks, and you've got good communication going on between you and your dog. So but yeah, it's a great command, really easy to teach. And again, we've got a video on that as well we've recently done, which I think people, like you said, it's people should just go out and practice, and you can do it when you're out walking.
Really absolutely. So we need to talk about the dreaded COVID-19 situation that we're in at the moment. So obviously I can't run my classes at the moment, as I'm sure a lot of trainers aren't running their classes, even though we could stay 2 meters apart. We're being sensible and not. But I'm using my Canicross equipment a lot at the moment, because I know I can walk hands-free. I've got my dogs under control, as long as nobody's close enough to touch my dogs. I know they're at least 2 meters away from me, so there's huge benefits in it at the moment. Have you seen any kind of impact in terms of sort of people wanting more equipment, or in fact people inquiring about Canicross in general?
Definitely, it's quite amazing, because one of the benefits about this particular period we're in is you can only go out once, and you want to get your exercise in. If you've got a dog as well, it's a great way to combine the two. A lot of people aren't wanting to let their dogs off, or they might be in places that aren't encouraging you to. So some parks are saying you need to keep your dog on the lead. So a lot of people are getting in touch with us, because they're seeing the opportunity to either canitrek with their dog or learn the sport, because it's maybe something they've always wanted to do and think about taking up. But so yeah, it's proven really popular. We're having a lot of people are interested in buying our kit and asking questions, and we've been doing an Instagram live session on every other Sunday, and we did our first one last week, and we had loads of questions on that. So there's lots of people really interested, and we've got a Strava group as well, DogFit Squad, that's proving really popular. So it's lovely to see, and I think it is because people are able to. It's something you can do with your dog still. You can go out and do the exercise, and you can, well, that 2 meter line is about right distance, isn't it? So you keep, so that, I knew there's a reason why it was invented, but yeah, but yes, it's certainly proved really popular. And what we're also doing is offering at the moment we're running an online couch to 5K course. So that's been a few weeks in, and that's really just to help encourage people, give them the support, so they're not struggling with getting started. So we've got a proper program running, but we've tailored it for Canicross. So as well as following the standard sort of couch to 5K type of program, we are giving tips and advice on how to make the most of the Canicross equipment. So talking about commands, for example, is a really good one. And how do you run with 2 dogs, or how do you, what terrain might you run on? So we think we give advice on that as well. But it's been lovely, and we've built up a really nice community over the last few weeks. And what we're hoping from this is that people will continue it afterwards, and hopefully, I'm looking forward to this as well, be able to actually go out and run with other Canicross, with our friends, because it is as you mentioned before, Bridget, it's a social sport, and the dogs enjoy running in a pack. So that's the one bit I'm missing. But hopefully, everyone who's doing it now will all come together at the when this is all over, and carry it on and see a whole different side of the sport as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it is fantastic. We can still go and do it without a doubt. But yeah, you're right. It's the kind of the not being able to go out with the other dogs and your friends and things which we miss. But at least it is a sport we can continue at the moment, which is great. So, as you know, I fell in love with Canicross so much and wanted to do more that I trained with you to become a Canicross trainer. But if anybody is interested in joining you and joining DogFit as one of your partners, what prerequisites do you want them to have, and kind of what training do people now go through to become certified?
Yeah, well, generally speaking, we're looking for, with our DogFit trainers, they will have experience of running a class environment. So some people, they'll be personal trainers. We have a lot of personal trainers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a PT. A lot of our partners have done, for example, the one-day leadership in running fitness workshop that's run by England Athletics. Yeah, it's about just being able to lead a group, but all our DogFit trainers are versed in they understand about Canicross and the equipment, so they can give that support to somebody coming to a class, help recommend the kit that they need. Janetta and I are always on hand as well to help clients if they've got any specific questions. But with our DogFit trainers, they'll be experienced in leading a class of some description, and they will obviously understand the Canicross side. But having said that, we also run a workshop specifically for people who have less Canicross experience or knowledge, and that's where we share our expertise. So Janetta and I will run a half-day workshop and teach our trainers everything you need to know about the equipment, about leading a class and running the business side. So the business side is quite important. Often that's the bit that gets put to one side, because you're obviously, and I understandably, because a lot of our trainers want to focus on the practical. That's where the skills are and what you love doing. So we try to, what we do is we give advice on how to run the business side, and we give a lot of support, such as social media. We have somebody who helps do our social media, and they will help promote classes and share any posts that our trainers do. But if anyone's actually interested in becoming a trainer, we do have a form that they can complete. So it's on our website, or they can contact us via our email address, which is hello@dogfit.co.uk. and we can send them the link to the form, and we can take it from there. If they've got enough of a background and experience, and they're not in an area that was already covered by a trainer, then I normally follow up with a phone call and we'll have a chat and I can answer any questions. There's no commitment at that stage, and then we take it from there. But yeah, all our trainers are obviously experienced in dealing with clients, and helping people is their priority, and obviously love dogs, it goes without saying, and love fitness. So it's bringing all that together and giving somebody that structure, rather than that you wouldn't get necessarily with some other like more social type groups. If you're just going out with a group of friends, for example, you'll have somebody who's very much individual centric. So they're going to put your needs first and make sure that the pace isn't too fast, that your dog's happy, that you're running in the right kit. So these are all quite fundamental things, but very important, because we want to make sure that we're avoiding injuries, that people are happy and enjoying the sport and want to continue it. So that's key for us.
Yeah, and I think that's why when I wanted to start and have a go, I looked for the nearest DogFit trainer to me, because it was that peace of mind that I was going to be going to somebody that really understood the sport, and that I was going to be safe, but also that my dogs were going to be safe, which was really important. So how many trainers do you have now?
I think got around the 30 mark, 35. Okay. Yeah, it's great. And we've also got some internationally as well, which is great. So we've just a lady's just started in South Africa, so hopefully when the lockdown's over, I know she'll be raring to go. And we've got some in America and Portugal and Germany, so that's brilliant. It's growing that way as well internationally.
Yeah, it's great that it's becoming so popular, isn't it? It's just really, really good. Well, that is fantastic. So if anybody wants to learn any more about DogFit and about how to get involved in classes, or even how to find their nearest trainer, what's the best way of them contacting you?
Yeah, the best way is to go on our website. It's just dogfit.co.uk, and we've got a listing under classes that tells you, it has a map and it tells you where all the trainers are and where you can find class. If you're in a area where we don't have any trainers currently, we do have an online Couch to 5K program that you can do, but hopefully you'll find there's somebody for you. But yes, that's the best way to get in touch. And I mentioned before, if you're looking for advice for kit and help with kit, you can either go via the trainer, because what they'll often do is do a taster class for people, or you can complete our harness consultation form. So either way, we're always on hand to help. That's our priority if anyone's got any questions. But if you go through our website, you'll find most of the information that way. And our email address I mentioned before is hello@dogfit.co.uk. So if you have any specific questions, you're welcome to email us that way.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I hope that everyone watching this is going to be desperate to have a go now, because it really is great fun. And they'll be able to contact you if they've got any further queries. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Bridget.